I'll just read part of it. As for grief, you'll find it comes in waves. When the ship is first wrecked, you're drowning with wreckage all around you. Everything floating around you reminds you of the beauty and the magnificence of the ship that was and is no more. And all you can do is float. You find some piece of the wreckage and you hang on for a while. Maybe it's some physical thing. Maybe it's a happy memory or a photograph. Maybe it's a person who is also floating. For a while, all you can do is float, stay alive. In the beginning, the waves are 100 feet tall and crash over you without mercy. They come 10 seconds apart and don't even give you time to catch your breath. All you can do is hang on and float. After a while, maybe weeks, maybe months, you'll find the waves are still 100 feet tall, but they come further apart. When they come, they still crash all over you and wipe you out. But in between, you can breathe. You can function. You never know what's going to trigger the grief. It might be a song, a picture, a street intersection, the smell of a cup of coffee. It can be just about anything, and the wave comes crashing. But in between waves, there is life. Somewhere down the line, and it's different for everybody, you find that the waves are only 80 feet tall or 50 feet tall. And while they still come, they come further apart. You can see them coming. On an anniversary, or birthday, or Christmas, you can see it coming. And for the most part, you can prepare yourself. And when it washes over you, you know that somehow you will again come out of the other side, soaking wet, sputtering, still hanging on to some tiny piece of the wreckage, but you'll come out. He says, take it from an old guy, the waves never stop coming, and somehow you don't really want them to. But you learn that you'll survive them. And other waves will come, and you'll survive them too. And if you're lucky, you'll have lots of scars from lots of loves and lots of shipwrecks. And I don't know why, I just always really liked that, because it really spoke to me. I am here today with my sister, Kimberly Mistysyn, and I'm really happy to have you here. Thanks for coming all the way over and still keeping your distance to talk about, November 21st is International Survivor of Suicide Loss Day. And it also, November 11th, just happened to be the 10th anniversary of the day Corey took his own life. Corey is our younger brother, who was 32 when he took his own life. Yeah. So it's fitting, I think, that we should be having a discussion about the aftermath of having lost someone to suicide. Suicide is different. Having lost someone to suicide is very different from losing someone to natural causes or a disease. It's probably more similar to losing someone to homicide, but it's different. And I'm not saying that it is harder to deal with, it's just different. Yeah. For various reasons. The violence is traumatic. It has a traumatic effect on how you react.
Depending on how it's been done.
Depending on how it's been done, right. But there's that shock.
Yes.
There's the stigma that is attached to suicide in general, that, either it was a sin, or they did something wrong, or it was because of something someone else in the family did. There's just that negative connotation with it. As well, it can be very isolating because people don't know how to react to it. It's a very sensitive subject that not a lot of people talk about for obvious reasons that we just said. So there's all of that, and of course the guilt.
That's the biggie one.
That is the big one that leaves people often wondering, is there something I could have done? Mm-hmm. Should I have done something differently? Why did this happen?
Yeah.
So let's start with how did you feel? What was your reaction, I guess, at first when you heard the news?
It was Sunday, November 7th. And the phone rang late at night, and it was my mother, our mother, telling me that Corey had jumped and she needed some support. She was rushing to hospital with him in the ambulance, and I basically hightailed it over to the hospital. So there wasn't a lot of time to react until afterwards, because then I spent the night at the hospital with carrying around this shoe and just worrying. He wasn't gone yet, but he never did regain consciousness. And as you know, we then spent about 4 days checking in on him regularly and just wishing he would pull through, and that did not happen. So the reaction is, it's disbelief, it's shock. There was anger. There was definitely anger.
So if you've lost someone to suicide, Kim, what would you say?
If you're someone who's just lost someone to suicide, or you think you might be dealing with a scenario where that person might have killed themselves, even if you don't know for sure, you may be feeling all kinds of things. Anger, hurt. You might feel like that person wasted their life. I know I've seen that reaction. You might just feel like, you might feel desperate. You might feel like you can't go on without that person. That's another one that I've seen happen before. You need help. You might be in denial that this is actually a suicide. You might be dealing with that feeling. There's so many things that will be going on in your head, and your best option is to try and reach out. Know that there are people out there who have been through what you're going through, and they would probably be very comfortable talking to you about it.
I think people are often relieved to know somebody else has gone through it so that they can share their story. It's kind of like a relief being able to share. In regards to, again, the aftermath and dealing with grief, it took me a while to figure out why sometimes I would suddenly just fall into a depression. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it would make sense. Sometimes it would be because, and I wouldn't think about it at the time, I just passed a graveyard. Or most of the time, it's because it's November. Mm-hmm. And it just happens to be that month. And my body just knows.
Yes.
My brain knows. And I automatically kind of sink into this fog or this mood. How is that for you?
I think that there are triggers that happen, especially when you've been through any traumatic experience. And obviously the suicide of Corey was traumatic for us, and so November becomes a month where I as soon as we hit November 1st, I'm already starting to feel my body tensing, and it's like I'm waiting for something else to happen. And because he died on Remembrance Day, right, and we spent so much time in the hospital, we saw poppies everywhere we went. And I completely value our veterans, what they've done for us, what they continue to do. I find poppies are a trigger for me because I saw them at a time when we were saying goodbye to Corey. Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay.
There is that repeated feeling of what could I have done differently.
Can I ask you guys something?
Yeah.
Does the guilt ever go away?
No. The guilt is never going to go away because I'm never going to have the answers that I need. Can I cope with the guilt better as time goes by? Yes. But there's so much I would have liked to have talked to Corey about more, or said to Corey, or understood. And that's not something I'm going to get back.
I think, yeah, the guilt will always be there for me as well, but it's not even so much guilt as it is just profound sadness.
Yeah.
No. Just wishing.
Yeah.
Just.
What are some of the coping mechanisms that you actually employ when you are starting to have that tension build up in November, and or your triggers are starting to really cause you to, the anxiety is going up, it's ratcheting up quick? How do you, what kinds of things do you do to help yourself? I know it's different for everyone, but.
Sure. I write. I recently, like this November, I wrote a poem that I'm going to put on my blog, just about how I just need to write it out.
Mm-hmm.
I work out, I exercise. Doing the workouts with Jen has been really helpful for me. It's been like, even when I don't feel like I want to, it gives me that sense of purpose, and like I know I'll feel better once I do it, because that was a huge outlet. Exercise has always been a huge outlet for me. A lot of people don't know how to react, and that's completely understandable. It's okay to say you don't know how to react. It's hard for me if somebody loses something to know what to say, and if you don't know what to say, I think it's okay to say that. I think it's okay to say, listen, I'm so sorry, I don't know what to say. And that's okay. That's better than avoidance. It's better than deflecting or trying to change the subject. Just being yourself, and I think just showing empathy is enough. I truly feel that we would be doing our brother a disservice by not talking about it.
Yes.
It's like I don't want
him to become invisible.
Yeah, I don't want to sweep his death under the rug like a dirty little secret.
No.
He had he was a musical prodigy. He was so smart. He had so many wonderful things about him, and
yet he struggled with certain mental health issues.
Like so many people do.
So many people.
Is it not amazing? I know, because we were talking about this too. It's and you were even saying that it's amazing when you do start talking about it to hear how many people actually have lost someone, or know somebody that lost someone. I mean, it's so much more prevalent than I would have thought.
Yes.
Because it's not something that's talked about.
Yes.
That often.
Yes.
And I think it is important to acknowledge that this is a thing. This is a real thing, and so many people are struggling. Corey was on a list actually for a psychologist, I believe, or was it a psychiatrist? He was on the list for help, and he got a call on his answering machine, or like a day, I think, after he took his life. I feel that I take a little bit extra time to really cherish the moments I have with my kids.
Yeah, and you've got very young kids too, so
Just makes me hold them a little bit tighter.